Our very next stop is under this thatched roof, which used to cover the family restaurant known as Margaret and Paul's. Margaret and Paul's was run by the Christensen family. Paul was a baker trained in Denmark, the very place that Solvang is modeled after, and Margaret was the epitome of a perfect hostess, always dressed just so and with a beautiful smile on her face. Their son Thor, however, was hiding a sinister secret underneath the picture-perfect postcard facade. Thor was a serial killer, first known as the look-alike killer, and then as the Hitchhiker killer. He actually used these very hills as dumping grounds for the victims of his bodies. Thor hunted the women of UC Santa Barbara from 1976 to 1979, first killing Jacqueline, then Marianne, and then Patricia Laney. Patricia's story is actually a sad one of irony. See, she had been hanging posters of the other two victims all day when she accepted a ride from Thor. Nowadays, hitchhiking is seen as dangerous, and especially women would not do it. Back then, it was something many did without a second thought, and Patricia thought Thor looked harmless. For the record, they said the same thing about Ted Bundy. Thor shot Patricia through the head with a stolen .22 caliber pistol, just as he did the others. Now, police were able to use the locations of these bodies to determine that only a local from Solvang would have known the roads to access those points. They even questioned Thor Christensen. Thor, thoroughly spooked, took his show on the road to Oregon. The killings in California stopped, but the killings in Oregon had just begun. For some reason, less than a year later, Thor came back to California, but this time changed his hunting grounds to Los Angeles. There, he killed Laura Sue Benjamin, and then attempted to kill Linda Preston. Linda was 24 and got in the car with him as all the other victims had. She was shot through the ear, and fate intervened. She was able to throw her bloody and terrified self out of the car and into the road in the dark of the night. Thor kept driving. He assumed that she would bleed out in the ditch. She survived, though, the bullet having ricocheted off of her jaw. Months later, Thor was sitting in the Bottom Line bar when Linda walked in. She recognized him there, sitting at the counter, and yet somehow managed to keep her cool. She walked to the back of the bar, even brushing Thor's shirt. Can you imagine? Before getting on the payphone and calling 911. It took her 25 minutes to convince the police that they needed to come, but they did, and they arrested Thor. The damning piece of evidence? A napkin found near one of the bodies that was stained with blood, and Thor's fingerprint, which they were able to get a match of. And the napkin was from his family's restaurant. Thor was sentenced to prison in Folsom for life. However, within the first year, he was the victim of what is called mob justice, when his fellow inmates stabbed him to death in the prison yard. Like the stories of Thor's victims, Thor's story ended bloody and sudden. However, Thor managed to come back to haunt these very streets of Solvang even after death. If you ever have the occasion to visit Solvang Cemetery, take a walk near the back. You'll find that one of the graves belongs to Thor himself. Perhaps his spirit is even wandering these streets with us tonight.